the breaking news item that happened, and that is about New York Attorney General Letitia James. But, Will, it may be a little different than what our audience expects when they've heard that name before.
So this is a criminal referral that was sent to the Department of Justice from the Federal Housing Finance Agency, and that's a regulatory agency that oversees things like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the Federal Housing Administration, which provides largely the mortgage insurance premiums that people pay to. And so what we're looking at here is that this regulatory agency is sending over what they believe as instances of criminal activity, of violating U.S. law when it comes to obtaining several mortgages from for Letitia James. And they are referring it to them, saying it could be a violation of these statutes. It goes through a wire fraud statute, a mail fraud statute, a bank fraud statute, and false statements to a financial institution. And these aren't small statutes that would be in violation. That 18 U.S. Code 1014, which is the false statement to a financial institution, has a maximum sentence of a fine of not more than $1 million or imprisoned not more than 30 years or both.
Sense, though.
Now, that is the maximum, obviously, statutory, but that's what could happen for people that violate these laws and are found guilty through our judicial system. So the agency that oversees it sends this criminal referral to the DOJ because the regulatory agency doesn't prosecute it. That is what the Department of Justice does. And here are some of the allegations, Logan.
Yeah, let's go through them. Let's list these off. And again, maybe just make them a little more simplistic for people to understand.
No, I'm gonna read in detail and give a lot more information.
Hot mortgage news.
That's right. One highlight or low light, depending on how you want to look at it, is comes from August of 2023. While she is the Attorney General of New York, she purchases a property in Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia. And
Will and I have spent a lot of time on the streets.
That's
Norfolk,
right.
Virginia.
She just wanted to be close to the greening of Ghent, the St. Patrick's Day festival. But what happened here is
kind of the gutter punks of Norfolk, Will and I, back in our day.
Is that she purchased this property and they listed it as a primary residence and then also reaffirmed that statement in Fannie Mae Freddie Mac form 3047 and in mortgage documents. Now, the problem with this is that
everybody knows that form number.
If you get a primary residence, if you list something as your primary residence, you're going to get more favorable loan terms, smaller down payment than is required for a secondary property,
investment property, or
and
whatever it may be.
And that's because the bank sees you as more risky on a secondary property. If you hit financial straits and you have to choose between your primary residence or the secondary, you're going to let one lapse before the other. And there's a lot of issues with this. One, she's the sitting Attorney General of New York while purchasing this property. By law in New York, she has to be a resident of New York. And but at the same time, she's saying this would be a primary residence. So that is one allegation in this criminal referral of a fraudulent misstatement to gain something, which would be more favorable terms in a mortgage. The second issue is another mortgage on a property in Brooklyn. It's a building. It's a multi-family unit. And
as most of New York is.
Right, exactly. So that's not unusual. Yeah. The certificate of occupancy for the building is for a 5-family unit. So it can hold 5 families. In mortgage documents and other filings, she would claim it as a 4-family unit. Now, this is like, okay, is this just a mistake or whatever? What the allegation is that a building that exceeds 4 units is treated differently and typically has a larger down payment and higher interest rates. So in that little discrepancy of a 4-unit versus a 5-unit, she was getting more favorable loan terms. She was also using different permitting routes within the state of New York. That would be different than what this agency would oversee, but she was gaming the system, it appears, in these allegations to seek more favorable things. And this is an individual who prosecuted President Trump in a civil trial, got a $500 million judgment against him, in a completely different set of facts where the banks were wanting to do business with him. Here, these are government-backed loans and big allegations here. And she is this very same individual who was tweeting things like, no one is above the law.
Are some of the statutes being cited, were they the same statutes being cited against Trump?
The irony is there that this is happening, but they wouldn't be the same because of the way that's structured, state versus federal.
That's right. So it's kind of the same concept, but she's a state attorney general, so she's not prosecuting a federal crime. These are U.S. Under 18 U.S. code, different sections under Chapter 18. So no, they are not the same.
Like two sides of the same
law,
the same
and also
coin.
that was a civil trial that she had against him, and was able to get that huge judgment. She also was able to say there doesn't have to be a victim in this civil case against President Trump. These would have criminal penalties. Under federal law, would even be a different structure of a case, not just state and federal, but that was a civil suit against him there. And this would allegedly, if the DOJ decides to accept the criminal referral and open the investigation, this would be a criminal investigation. When the left is accusing you of something, many times they're doing that exact thing that they're accusing you of doing. And I do think that for many people, it's like, going after Letitia James, getting back at her. And some people may like that. Yeah. I
really
want
play by that.
to have a system where there isn't political retribution.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it may look like that because she went after him on this, and now she's guilty of or alleged having similar situations.
I do think we have to be careful that we don't play that hand.
Right.
That it's probably very tempting. It's probably very tempting for the Trump administration, very tempting for Attorney General Bondi or whoever it may be to, not only just smirk at this and say this is ridiculous, but to take out your feelings, your emotional feelings, because you feel like this was done to you. I think it's important. I know that a lot of people will disagree with me and they'll say, Logan, no, they did it to us, we'll do it to them. Well, then it's an endless cycle, and it's impeachment. It's all of those things that we talked about become an endless cycle, and it doesn't matter anymore. All of those issues just start compiling. And I really hate that. And I don't want to see that happen in this country where we are taking at. But it doesn't seem like this is what that is. Well, it's honestly too specific.
Well, and I also think there's a flip side to that. While we don't want just endless political lawfare, if there are very valid allegations that are investigated, sure, and it's taken to trial and that person is convicted on those charges and the rules of the law are followed, if they were to find this and not do something about it because they were concerned about political optics, I think that also could be just as bad. I don't think that you should only prosecute because of political reasons. That's not good for the country. But if you discover something and you're afraid the optics may be that it looks like we're just getting revenge, and you decide to do nothing, that also doesn't uphold the rule of law.